I'm excited to be here once again to do this lovely acrylic painting titled Meet Me in Capri, inspired from the Italian-American artist. Her name is Heidi Easley. This was her inspiration, and this is my interpretation of her inspiration. So today, to get this started, you do want some supplies with you. You're going to take some acrylic paints in several shades. I have them all here. I have some white. I have a burgundy red. I have a brown shade. I have a green, a dark blue, a black, a peachy color, raspberry kind of pink, a lighter blue, and some yellow. And the size brushes that we'll be using, I have a 1/2 inch flat brush. I have a thin kind of pointed liner brush. And I have about a 1/4 inch round brush. And of course, some paper to get started to draw on, a palette for mixing, a cup of water to clean my brushes. And anytime you're dealing with water, you definitely want to have some paper towels handy. And of course, a pencil for our sketch. The sketch is going to be fairly easy. Just think of some kind of rock shapes and then creating the horizon line. So not too much happening with our sketch. So we're going to get started. I have my paper kind of top to bottom, but just for ease of drawing, I'm going to kind of tilt it at an angle here. And about 1/3 of the way from the top, I'm just going to create a bit of a horizon line straight across. So about a handful down from the top of my page gets that background going. And then just above that little background, I'm going to start creating our little rock formation. As you can see in our sample here, this rock formation starts above the water. So we're going to curve off a corner here, bring it down, and almost create like a boot shape. So I just want to zoom that in for you guys. So we have that squarish right above the water, and then we come and kind of create one boot and a second boot. So it curves down, then comes across, and then sticks out again, about the same distance. And that's that first rock formation. And then we start with these little guys. So we have this first rock formation that we just created, the little extender piece at the bottom. And then we have these 3 little rock formations, and that is going to be right in front of this last little squared off part. We're just kind of round it out like an upside down U, and then create a longer kind of curved piece like so. And then another U shape, but this time you're creating almost like a rainbow kind of rock formation with a little bit of a point. So start off with a gumdrop looking shape right in front of this area here. Then a little bit of a longer oval kind of pointed shape with a flat bottom. And then we did somewhat of an upside down U and covering it almost like a rainbow with a little bit of a point. And that's our rock formation in the center. And then last but not least, if you look at our inspiration, we have this rock formation kind of happening off to the corner. So I'm just gonna kind of end that corner off with the rock formation. And just like that, our sketch is done. So I'm actually going to just adjust this little bit here. I just want it a little bit rounder and shorter than our rock formation. I'm gonna eliminate this horizon line here. And this first section, I'm just going to create an angle that kind of goes down. So that's it for our sketch. I have this little kind of angle happening here. I made this area a little shorter, the 3 little rocks, just like so. So to get started, I'm going to start off with my square brush. So this flat square brush is going to get us going with this background that we have here. I'm going to start off with this sky blue and white color. So we'll take a dip into the sky blue, just like so, a dip. And then we have a touch of white. So we'll put on some blue, throw on some white, and swipe left to right just to fill in that sky area. You want it very piecey, not really blended. I'm not really blending it till I get to the page. And I'm just swiping it left to right. Getting some more white in there. And now just swiping just like so. Coming in with that sky blue, dipping into some white. One, two, three. The sky is looking like it's ready for an Italian getaway. Just touching a little of the blue, swiping across, touching a little of the white, swiping across, and not really over blending too much. You kind of want to see a little bit of both shades happening. And here we are. The top half is looking pretty good. So the next step, still the same brush. We do want to start filling in these areas of the water. And that's going to be using this darker blue. This is going to need its own shade. And we're going to create that. I didn't clean my brush. I just dipped into this darker blue. And I'm going to swipe across. Just with a little white. Some of that sky blue. And this is going to be the shade of the water. So it's clearly a little darker than the sky. If you do have just one blue, you just want to add a white just so that it's a little bit of a different shade. So the sky should be super light, and the next shade of water should be a darker shade of blue. And we're just going to come in and start swiping. Just left to right. And again, just using my flat square brush, loading the paint like so. Getting in these little corners, getting closest to the rock formation that I can. And slowly start swiping in some of this water area. Now I'm not going to take the blue all the way down. It is going to get covered. If you see with our inspiration, this water area gets covered at the bottom with our flowers and some greenery as well. So I'm just going to take this down. Not all the way, but if you can see, almost all the way down, leaving a little bit of the blank at the bottom. And just start filling in. And the only little thing I'm going to do as I'm filling in, I'm going to touch a little bit of green. And just in this middle water area, I'm just going to mix in a touch of green, just like so. If you can see our inspiration, you just have a touch of green there. That's going to be just where these boats are sitting. So just want a touch of green just in the center here. And everywhere else is still going to get this dark green, dark blue with a touch of white. A little white mixed in there. And you don't even need that much white. A little white goes a long way. And keep mixing till it gets a little shade darker. And I'm just gonna fill in underneath this first rock formation. You get in here in this little water space right below it as well with a swipe left to right. And I'm swiping with the brush, not like flat like this. I'm holding it straight up and down. And swiping left to right. Not with the flat side kind of open, but just with the perpendicular side. Just so it creates some kind of wave texture. Use my side to get in that edge there and then just come in and pull that color in. The texture. Get as close to the rock formation as possible. It's okay if you go over the line just a little bit. We are going to use that peach corally color to kind of fill in. Just want to get as close to that rock formation. There we go. We definitely want to let that dry pretty well with the acrylic before we get on to the rock area. So I'm going to put my brush, leave it in a little bit of that water, and get started on my next color. So our sky is looking pretty good. Our water area is looking pretty good. So the next stage would be putting that kind of creamy, kind of peachy color for the rock formation. So we're going to start. I already have a premixed coral, but you can always mix a little of the white with any kind of red or pink that you have. And then even this coral is still a little dark. I'm going to add just a shade of white. And when I swipe down on the rock formation, I'm actually going to just go through the whole thing. So even though you see green happening in the inspiration, we're just going to start layering with just all beige. And I'm just going to pull the shade down. So once I scoop it with this round brush, like so, I'm just pulling that color straight up and down. Go into that peach color. Again, that can be done with some red and some white. And even this peach shade needs a little touch of white. Do a little mixing. And again, pulling with my round brush. And kind of getting in to this little formation here, this little rounded part coming down. I'm going to pull the paint across, but still pull straight up and down, just in keeping with the look of the rocks. And then same thing, pulling up and down, just like so. This time pulling it up. And now to get into these little rock formations, I want to make sure that the paint around is pretty dry. And we can always come back in and add afterward and throw another layer on. So as you can see, you kind of have a little bit of that blue peeking through. So we have that big rock formation with that coral color I'm getting here and coming in just like so to fill in those. Coming in again. Now for the more pointed center one. And lastly, with that rounded one here. And that's going to be the first layer. You can see there and there. And now for the corner. The bottom left corner is going to get the same color and the same up and down treatment. Pulling down with this coral shade, just like so. And then while it's still wet, I'm just going to slightly pull a little bit of that red and create like a little tester space here. And I'm just gonna very lightly pull some red across with a dry brushing, very little, almost like you're making a mistake on purpose with this shade. And if you can see, there's just a very, very light dry. I just barely touched that red, kind of gave it a little tester spot. And then while my brush was on its side, pulled it through just to create a little difference in that shade, like so. So this little round brush is going to get a good cleaning. That's a swirl and a tap at the bottom of my water cup. A good drying happening on my paper towel. And with this shade of green, I'm going to start a new mixing of colors. So some green and some brown. And a touch of black. So that might even be too much black. Just literally a little dot should do. So some green, some brown, and a touch of black. We'll get this darker green shade happening. So we want a darker green and a lighter green. So you can add brown to your green. You can add black to your green to create a darker shade. And then you can also add some blue and some yellow to make a different shade of green. So we got a little bit of a darker green happening here. It's more like an evergreen with a touch of black and a touch of brown happening. There we go. And we're going to just start eyeballing on our rock formation where this color kind of lives. So it's going to be a lot of stamping and kind of tapping some green right onto the rock formation. So I'm just pressing in some green, and I'm thinking triangle as I'm filling in, even though we're freehanding this, I'm still thinking shape that I want it to look. And I got 2 triangles worth of greenery here. So we have one kind of triangle here, one kind of triangle happening here. And then I want a little bit at the bottom as well. And that's just a 1, 2, 3. Get some dark green and stamp away. Now the next kind of areas, these are really free-handed for the green. So once we have that dark green again, we mixed a little of our color green with some brown and some black. I'm gonna think right above the horizon is gonna be our first tree. Now let me show you our inspiration. We did this kind of area here with that first layer of green. And now we're gonna do almost like a diamond shape right in the sky area. So I'm just gonna tap like so. And just have a diamondish area full of green. And just some more off here. And some more right at the top. And we're just kind of stamping wherever we feel this tree looks good. All right, so that first layer, we have this first layer here, this first layer here. We have the diamond in the sky, a little one, and a little bit something more right above this rock formation. So that's looking good. So far, so good. Gonna clean my brush really well and get into some flowers. So before we can put some greenery down at the bottom, we have some beautiful flowers that we're gonna create. So I have this lovely raspberry pink. I want it a little bit darker, so I'm going to create a new shade with some red. So we have this pinky red color. Alrighty. Get a touch of black in there. Kind of darken it up. That did not do what I was hoping it would. It's too dusty. We'll just switch back to the pink and red color. Real-time solutions. So we have some pink. We have some red. Yeah, we'll just stick with that pink and red raspberry combo. Just get enough going to fill the whole bottom. Alrighty. So we're gonna stamp in here at the bottom the same way that we stamped in our lovely greenery. We're going to make our florals stand out with some stamping. Just stamping our lives away here. I'm gonna come up just a little. Just gonna come in with some of that pink. Just come into some of that red and do some mixing in real time here. And we have ourselves a decent bush of these florals happening. So you should get mostly that bottom area. And then right above now this red, we're gonna let it dry. We're gonna be putting these 3 pieces of greenery. So while we wait for that to dry, let's work on the other highlights happening with the green. So I'm gonna take a little yellow over here. A little yellow, touch of our original green, create a highlighting color. And this is going to be very simple. We're just going to pick about half of this section here is going to get that lighter green. About half here as well. And about half of this tree gets that lighter green. And then we'll fill in here, making sure that there's some of that dark green still kind of peeking through. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a little stamp of something. And that's just yellow and green. Like so. And then now we can get to some details. So that's going to leave us with our thinner liner brush. So with these details, we're going to start building little houses and highlighting some more with some white. So I'm going to take my liner brush, dip into some white. I'm going to swipe the white on my brush. And I'm going to pick like 3 houses that live on this mountain. And the houses are just little white squares. Nothing fancy. Nothing complicated. Just 3 little imprints of these little homes hanging on this mountainside. You got the white, you got the houses, you got the brown, and you got yourself a little rooftop. So a little swipe of brown across the top, and we have ourselves a rooftop. So once we have a house with a rooftop, I'm just going to come in with my liner brush and come in with just a little yellow, mix with a little green, and just going to kind of stamp in some more highlighted areas, stamping some green, stamping some yellow. I'm doing it all along this mountainside, just tapping. Doesn't take much effort. You just tap, tap, tap. Coming in with a little white now too. And my brush is pretty frayed. It's not wet at all. It's kind of dry. It's giving me all this texture. Getting into a little bit of white. And going kind of all over that green area. So we have our houses. We have our green area. We have a little bit of yellow peeking through. And our little houses are looking a little sad without having a window to look out of them. So I'll come in with a little black, swipe across with a little black on my liner brush. And just with 2 little dots, we open the window to this world of Capri. This one will have 3 windows, why not? 2 windows here. Very fancy. Just like so. And with this black, we're going to come in and define the rock formation a little bit. This is going to be done with a little bit of black and just slightly dragging over the rock formations. It's broken lines. It's not perfect. It's almost like an impression of an outline happening. So we have here some lines coming through. some accents. Nothing crazy, just a little definition. Same thing with our smaller rock formations here. And then we can come in with a little white. So once we outline basically all the little rock formations, don't forget your one in the corner here. Just a little dry brushing will do. We'll come in with a little white. Give everybody a good little highlight. Because why not? Tips. You can get a little tension. Add some streaks of white happening on this mountainside. Just a streak here. There. Lovely. Okay. So now our thin liner brush is going to get to work on these pieces of greenery. Again, sticking the liner brush into just some yellow and green. And we're tapping away. Just tapping away. Just like so. Just getting a hair bit of that yellow to show up here as a highlight. And we're just waiting for this red to finish up before we put any greenery down there. So that's going to be one of the last pieces. So as we keep it moving, we have our yellow on here. We have these kind of branches ready to happen. The branches are going to be done with a little bit of black and a touch of brown. So I'm going to mix a black brown color. And we really want it more black than brown. Something super dark. And that's going to be the branches. Perfect. So I have this. And the branches are kind of coming out of the lighter part. And when we do the branches, think of the letter Y. And we're just pulling them off to the side. So we have these kind of wiggly lines happening just right below that highlighted area there. Just like so. And then with a clean of the brush, we'll add some highlight also there. So just to show you the inspiration, we have a little rock formation with the green, and we have the little houses built. We outlined everything. We added some texture on our rocks. Then we did some more highlighting and yellowing on our greenery there and added some of these nice little branches off to the side. And now we'll just add a touch of white. So we'll dip into the white with our brush and just a little here and there type situation. Just a little something. And then we'll swipe again with our white. Of course, this is optional and most people like to do these little details. But we're going to create two little boats right here at the bottom with triangles. So we have a little bit of a sailboat there with a little curve under. And another triangle sailboat, a little curve under, and some wispy white lines across our sky. Just like that. Okay, so last but not least, once we've added the white there, we're going to finish off the greenery at the bottom. So our flowers should be, for the most part, planted in our little Capri garden. So it should be dry enough to stack on some of this dark green. So if you remember how we started the greenery, we started with a little bit of dark green, and this time we're going to do 3 triangle-ish type shapes. So again, load up on that green that got mixed with some black and some brown. Put some black and brown, darker greenery happening, like so. And then it'll get stamped into this area here in a triangle type of fashion. So we got one little happy triangular bush of green. The next one, tap, 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 we go. And finally, the last tap, kind of off to the side almost. Like so. 3 little green sections tapped all in a row. And if you remember next, a little yellow and green go a long way. For the next shade. And that's tap, tap, tap. More towards the top. The top half gets that lighter action happening. Again, tap, tap, tap with the top half. And then just some straight up yellow. Some yellow. And then I'm going to clean my thin liner brush. And get back into that second layer of pink. So we have some pink here. And we're just going to go over it with our thin liner brush. So once we put that big base layer of the red and pink, we're just going to come over top of it again. And we're just tapping at the bottom. So once that green kind of has a home, now it's a great time to have those flowers kind of come to life with some pink. And layer up like so. And just repeating that tapping just to really give it the look of a floral bush with a lot of texture. Just like so. All right, so before we add the stems, we definitely need to let this dry and then just add a little more of the details to the rock. Okay, so we had that dry brushing of the red, and then we have some white. And now with the thin liner brush, we'll come in even more with these smaller details and just putting some thin white lines, just going straight up and down on the picture. So just very thin white lines going up here. Just to add to that rock formation and the look of the rock. That layering is very important to help with the texture. Again, so you have your bigger swipes from earlier, but these are just supposed to be like thin accent lines. Long, trying to take it all the way from the top to the bottom. Again, just using my thin liner brush. Just really waiting for that second layer of the florals to dry. And I'm just coming in with some white here on the smaller rock formations and just really giving those details. And then don't forget the corner one as well. And then lastly, we'll be doing a little bit of this brown with white. Just doing the same thing. So brown and white, then liner brush, and then just coming in with that next level. Just little bit of texture happening. See? And it just keeps building. So the last thing was that brown with a little white. And now I'm just swiping through like so. With the thin liner brush, just going from top to bottom. I'm just really building that look of it being a rock formation. And just coming here with some brown and white, and don't forget the corner as well. Lots of thin little shadows being made. So that's just a close-up of what it should look like, what it could look like. Once you have those thin lines in white, once you have those thin lines in brown, it should be outlined already in black. You have your little boats hanging out in the middle of the water there. And then a couple of more steps left. We're almost done here, guys. Great job so far. We'll come back to this black brown shade to finish off the bottom. And again, just a little bit of a Y. Happening with this branch. And then this one's going to come over here with that black brown. Just like so. And then we can add some highlights for the florals, which can be pink with this yellow. So a touch of yellow with that pink. And we can have some orangish highlights happening. And here, pink and yellow here. And then just yellow in the flowers. Just little dots. Just to give it some interest. Like so. We do that in the yellow. And we do that with some white. So we mix a little of the pink and yellow to create a highlight color for the flowers. And now we're just going to come in with a teeny tiny bit of white. Add some highlight in the bushes here. Some highlight in the bushes here. Again, just stamping some white. And coming in with some white for the flowers. Nothing crazy, just a little kiss. Of highlight on the flowers. And then last but not least, a highlight of white on the branches. So we just pick one side of the branches and just drag a little white highlight across. Just need a little more right here. And then once these highlights on the branches are done, all you need is a signature. And you are complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on Meet Me in Capri. I hope you take the time to celebrate for Italian Heritage Month, Italian American Heritage Month. One of my favorite pictures is this one, Meet Me in Capri. I hope you enjoyed it. And with the signature, we are all done. And there you have it.